Hello everyone and welcome to Rob's Rogues, and today we are taking a look at the next figure in the Apache Chief wave from Wave 18 of the DC Universe Classics, El Dorado, mi amigo. So I cannot remember what his catchphrase was. I don't think he said Olay. I think he probably did, but I don't think that was his catchphrase that he used when he turned invisible. Am I going to be trying to say some of these characters' catchphrases and phrases as I review them from the superpowers? Yes, I am. So you can just bear with me on that and maybe chuckle at me for trying it. The three figures from the Superpowers team that are in here, which I think really rounds out the Superpowers team if people are building the Super Friends, Superpowers, however you want to say that, as they were created during the Super Friends time frame. He was created in 1981, as we will see in his appearance down here. Let's get through the bio, as this is the first time that I think he's ever had a biography written about him. Excuse me. Can I catch my breath for some reason? There we go. The biography for El Dorado reads as this. Dressed in a costume that evokes the Aztec kings of long ago, El Dorado uses his mystical powers to aid the Super Friends in their worldwide quest for justice. Some speculate he is the descendant of Aztec sorcerers, empowered by their ancient magic as his people's warrior spirit, El Dorado. As his people's warrior spirit. Period, Rob. El Dorado has never revealed the source of his power, but his knowledge of ancient ruins in Mexico suggests connection to the Aztec civilization. I think that's a really cool and interesting bio for El Dorado, as they were just kind of a one-dimensional character, and we'll again get into that here in just a little bit. First appearance, of course, he was never in the comics whatsoever. There was a Superpowers comic book, but El Dorado, Black Vulcan, and Samurai did not appear in that. So his first appearance was Super Friends 1981. I very much remember Saturday morning seeing the Super Friends cartoon series grow and evolve, and I remember when El Dorado, Black Vulcan, and Samurai came into being. Real name is unknown. Occupation, hero. Basis of operations is the Hall of Justice. Special abilities, great strength, flight, telepathy, and the ability to make objects appear and disappear, as he did in the cartoon series. Really kind of cool. I think somebody will probably correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the first time ever that El Dorado was ever made into an action figure. Of course, there's the other figures in the wave. Let's actually pull up El Dorado here. Turn the light on. Our subject, drop the camera down so we can have a better look at El Dorado. Back the camera up a little bit here to get him all in frame. Really nice looking figure. Before we get into talk about that, we will pull up he has no accessories whatsoever, which is kind of a bummer, but in the show I don't think he had any, a sword or anything like that, or a shield. But he did come with the mid-torso of Apache Chief. So real quick, let's do this on camera before we get into El Dorado. Here's the head of Apache Chief, and I hope that this goes on easy and I don't have to fight with it too much. There we go. A nice pop in there. The jacket does come off, so if you wanted a shirtless Apache Chief, I guess you could. Get this back on here. Just want to point out, for the reason of pointing it out, Apache Chief has nipples. El Dorado does not. Find that kind of funny that they just didn't do that on some of these shirtless characters, but they did on Apache Chief, and I think Bane does also. But it's neither here nor there. Here is the underoos that I just dropped, so now off camera I have to look for them, which is rather embarrassing to do on film, but you'll have that. So, the underoos, and for some people, I saw them online, the whole thing does spin around, but the writing, DC Comics and all that stuff, made in China, that's actually the back part. So there's the peg. Should snap right in there. Nice, good snap. So you do have the waist turn and all that stuff. So far this is going to be a nice, impressive Apache Chief. So, very cool. Can never tell if I have the light on. So we'll take a look at El Dorado here. And I think I was saying before, I think this is the first time El Dorado has ever been made into an action figure. He was... the only other three that were made into action figures were Apache Chief, Black Vulcan, and Samurai. Were in the DC Justice League Unlimited JLU figures, the little 4-inch figures they were made. And a Samurai was made into a Superpowers figure back in the day, where the other three were not. But a very nice looking figure from El Dorado. Very good head sculpt here. His haircut looks a little funny. It's got some weird bowl haircut almost. Standard DC UC articulation. Now his articulation is a little hindered here by some of his gold armor-ish stuff, I guess, if you will. So you can kind of see in the waist, if you want to get him to turn around, look left to right, it does kind of bind here a little bit. So you can't get him to bend very much forward or back. You can get the ab crunch to work a little bit, but then it starts to buckle up here. His gloves are just painted on. There's no definition in here, or anything raised up to define the glove. It's just a simple paint mark. Like I said, all the standard DC UC articulation. Something I didn't mention in the Superman review that I just did in Rob's Rogues 80. I think they should have given him, the Superman, a cape like this that wasn't so big and bulky. This is really nice and light, much like Red Robin's cape. They could have sculpted the rest of it to kind of go over Superman's shoulders instead of giving him the old DC UC Superman cape. But so that's the only thing I didn't mention in Superman's review. A little bit of nostalgia here. I've got the DVD where El Dorado makes his appearance. Now I think Black Vulcan was a little bit older in the Super Friends story, and I believe Apache Chief was. You could see a Samurai right there, and in the DVD case there is Apache Chief, and Black Vulcan is up there at the top. Of course, El Dorado is in here. And this was, there's a nice special feature in here where they're talking about the 4 characters to add some ethnicity into the Super Friends line, to have, a Hispanic character. Man, I cannot talk today. Hispanic character, a Native American, Indian character, a black character, and a Asian character, which I thought was, kind of cool that they did. It would have been nice to have a little bit of a backstory, maybe the very first time we saw some of these characters. As everybody pretty much knows who Superman and Batman and Robin and Wonder Woman and the Flash and Green Lantern, etc. were. It would have been nice, maybe the very first time we saw El Dorado, maybe to have a little bit more of a history with the character. Maybe see who his secret identity is. Because you see, Superman and Batman and Robin's excuse me, secret identities during the show. So it would have been kind of cool to see, El Dorado, Apache Chief, and Black Vulcan and Samurai. So this was a nice draw for me that initially I wasn't going to pick it up, but I thought, man, I did love the Super Friends cartoon series, and then I started buying them again on DVD, as you see there. So I have been watching them from time to time, and it's nice to kind of see the characters. Yes, they're kind of cheesy, kind of corny, but growing up as a kid, I know a lot of us that are probably collecting these figures were really gravitating towards being able to have a complete Super Friends lineup. I'm not really close to completing the whole Super Friends, but just having some of these characters there is going to be, you know, a nice little touch that I can say, oh, you know, he's from the Super Friends. So maybe some of you have bought this wave, maybe some of you haven't. You know, now having these figures and I'm getting ready to put them on the shelf, once the reviews are done, it'll be really cool to see them standing beside, you know, Aquaman and Green Lantern and Wonder Woman and Superman. So it'll be really kind of cool to piece together the rest of Apache Chief here and have the whole wave out. So we're just going to go on to the next figure. So hopefully you're going to enjoy this. Like I said, I bought a lot of figures this past week, so I've got quite a few more reviews that are going to be coming along here. So today we've been taking a look at El Dorado from Wave 18 of the DC Universe Classics line, the Apache Chief wave. And as always, this is Rob for Rob's Rogue signing off and saying, we will see you later, amigos.